Welcome to Building a Band Program, a special series from Rock School Proprietor Podcast. I'm John Kazicki, owner of Michigan Rock School, and this series is for studio owners who want to add a band program to their studio or who have a band program and want to take it to the next level. A band program can be a major benefit to any music school. For students, there's built-in accountability and reason to practice, and a strong sense of community and friendship formed from playing music with other people. And for your studio, that strong sense of community means greater student retention, better profit margins, and that dynamic of a band program simply can't be replicated in one-on-one private lessons. In this multi-part series, I'm going to walk you through everything from how to structure your band program and choose the right instructors, all the way to putting on a concert that your students and their families are going to be talking about for months. Today's topic: what does a band class actually look like? At my rock school, our biggest priority is getting students playing together in bands. Two of the key strategies we use in rehearsals are scaffolding and chunking. Both make complex tasks and big goals more manageable for students. Those same teaching strategies work great in private guitar lessons too, and they're built into my book, Complete Guitar Strumming. It's a straightforward approach to teaching rhythm, timing, and strumming so students can start playing songs faster. I've used this method for years, and the instructors at my school use it with their students every day. I also created a free instructor companion guide and training videos to help with quick, easy implementation to use with your students too. Both digital and hard copy versions are now available. Visit rockschoolproprietor.com/book to learn more. Welcome back to the Building a Band Program series of episodes on Rock School Proprietor Podcast. My name's John Kazicki, and if you've been following along with this series so far, you know that the goal here is to provide as much information as I can to our listeners about building a band program. Maybe you want to compete with School of Rock and offer something similar in your studio. Maybe you've got one of the other big franchises like Bach to Rock moving in, and you're a little worried and thinking like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to offer an ensemble program? Maybe you even have parents and students asking you, is this something that you'll ever do? This series of podcast episodes is for you. This is what I do at Michigan Rock School, at my studio, and I'm sharing details about what we do and how I've built the band program over the course of over a decade at my school at this point. So today's topic is, what does a band class look like? A common question I hear, especially in the online groups, is how do you teach a group of kids who are all playing different instruments to play a song together? And most of the time, you actually aren't teaching them how to play the song. The expectation is that, at least in my school, the students are learning the songs in their private lessons and practicing those at home so that they are coming prepared to band rehearsals, knowing what they need to know in order to then put it all together. So what we're doing, what my band coaches are doing, what I'm doing when I'm in a group with students and a band, is we're learning how to put the song together. We're working on getting repetitions in on those parts. We're focusing on dynamics. We're learning how to listen properly. All of those aspects of preparing these kids, these groups of students, to perform properly. I suppose in a sense you could think about it like what happens in a large choir or a middle school band class or high school band class. Yes, there's a little bit of teaching the parts in those examples, in those large ensembles, but a big part of those classes is really focusing on how do you play it together. And that's exactly what we're doing in our band program. So on this episode, I'm going to walk through what a rehearsal looks like at my studio, Michigan Rock School, and provide just a clear understanding of what we do in a student band rehearsal. So I'm going to share what I do in each of the rehearsals and what I train my band coaches to do in their band rehearsals so that they've got a smoothly run session week after week. So number one thing I always do in band rehearsals is I explain the rehearsal rules and I set up a plan for the day. So rehearsal rules in my school, the big ones are, we call it noodling. No noodling, no playing your instrument when the band coach is talking. No yelling, no talking when the band coach is talking. These are really basic things, but they're worth explaining and worth laying out in a very clear way because kids have poor impulse control, right? They want to play and it just kind of happens. So we name it. We name that behavior, noodling. Just don't play your instrument. It's respectful. So that's the number one thing. We also say, be prepared. Show up in band rehearsal prepared. Bring your notes, bring a tuner, tune before you get into the band room, everything that you need to be accountable. And then we really stress, focus on yourself. And at the end of it, you're going to clean up after yourself. So these rules, I repeat them a lot, especially with a new band or when we have new band members joining groups. So what we're really doing is we're setting very clear expectations about how band rehearsal is going to work and how it's going to flow. And I think especially with kids, they need those clear guidelines and they need those clear expectations. So maybe as bands progress and they understand what the rules are, we don't have to go over the rules at every rehearsal, but definitely at the beginning of sessions, we go over those rules to make sure that they're very crystal clear. The other thing I do at the beginning of every rehearsal is I set a plan for the day, a plan for that rehearsal. We have a whiteboard in our rehearsal room, and I always write the agenda down on the whiteboard because that gives the students a visual reminder of what we're working on that day, as well as giving them the verbal agenda at the beginning of every rehearsal. I am a strong proponent of three things, right? I try and focus on three things in every rehearsal. So that might be, the first thing is we're going to run through the song that we finished working on last week. The second thing is we may work on, say, the verse and chorus of the new song for the week. And then the third thing might be something as simple as we're going to talk about band names. We're going to brainstorm on band names, or maybe something, keep it social and fun. Maybe give everyone the chance to share something that they did that was interesting over the weekend, or we just finished spring break here. So maybe over spring break. But, just generally three things that students can count on for that day. And so that they understand, again, setting clear expectations, what we're going to be focusing on in that 45 minutes or that 60 minutes or however long that rehearsal is. So that's the first thing. I am setting clear expectations, giving the plan for the day. Number two, I mix the band before we start playing. I do this every single rehearsal. I do it at the beginning of every rehearsal. I have been doing it at every rehearsal for literally as long as I've been running rehearsals, in part because I need to make sure that I'm hearing all of the band members properly and I'm hearing them well. I need a good mix so that I can hear what's going on, I can hear what needs to be addressed, but also the band members need to be able to hear everything well. Most of the times, students don't know how to properly mix their volumes. Case in point, and to put it in context, when kids are practicing at home or when anyone's practicing at home, what they're used to hearing is their own instrument. Their own instrument is the loudest thing that they hear in their mix when they are practicing. So then when they go into a band rehearsal, their ears are just sort of accustomed to hearing their instrument most prominently. But that's not really how it should be in a band rehearsal. Yes, they should hear themselves, but they also need to be able to hear everyone else. And if they are left to mix their own instruments, well, then it's going to be a weird, wonky mix that's not going to be good for anyone but that individual band member. So I always mix the band before we start playing. And I'll add that I'm also a proponent of of manageable volumes, lower volumes when I mix groups, because again, I need to be able to hear everything. And louder volumes tend to fatigue my ears. I think they fatigue the band members' ears too. But I think a lower manageable volume is it suits me better as the band coach. And I do think it suits the band members better. So the last thing that I'll say about the importance of a good mix is in these rehearsals, we're also teaching the band members to listen properly. They're learning to listen. And again, going back to that idea of what they hear at home when they're practicing, what they're listening to is they're largely listening to their own instrument. Important, yes, but listening is different when you're in a band rehearsal, and we are teaching that. That is important. A little warning here too. You want to watch out for volume wars. Volume wars are when, like a student on the sly, after I've mixed everything, will go over to an amp and like just bump up their volume a little bit. And that's going to over time, over the course of that rehearsal, if a guitar player bumps up their volume, then the other guitar player in the room might realize like, oh, I'm going to bump up my volume. Next thing you know, we've got a wonky mix where it's very guitar heavy. So I'm going to have to go back and adjust those volumes. So watch out for volume wars. Kids will get into it. Third thing that we're going to do in every rehearsal is we're going to play. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I run these rehearsals. I generally will focus on sections of a song first versus playing full songs. Focusing on sections it's an educational technique called chunking, right? You're taking small parts of that bigger picture, that song, and you're just breaking them down into manageable parts that we're going to focus on one at a time. In songs, it's really simple to just focus on, say, like a chorus or a verse, and dial that in and fine tune it, and make sure that part sounds good before then going to another part of the song. Kind of contrary to maybe how when you have a piece of music, you will start at the beginning of that sheet music. And yes, you may take it in small chunks, in sections, but it's starting from the very beginning. I don't always do that when we're working on songs. And the reason that I don't do that is we may have songs that start with, say, just a drum intro. Or we may have songs that start with an intro that stacks and layers the different instruments as the song progresses. And I would much rather start a new song in a section where everyone's playing. So maybe I'll choose the chorus to start as the beginning section. Because again, everyone's playing. We can always go back and work on the intro later. But yeah, I take the songs in small sections, verses, choruses, maybe a bridge, solo section. Focus on those and then start to string the song together. Once we're able to play those songs from beginning to end, those songs become, I put them in like the warm-up rotation, right? So going back to that idea of the agenda at the beginning of each rehearsal. So my agenda might be, okay, last week's song, we're good on that one. That's our warm-up song now. And then we're going to start working on the sections of the new song. So we're doing a lot of playing. We're doing a lot of repetition when it comes to these songs, but we're being smart about it. Okay, now, concurrently, so this is the fourth thing that I do every rehearsal. It's while the band is playing, I'm also taking notes on the rehearsal. I'm I'm taking not just mental notes, but also written notes. I'll grab my laptop and put notes in the notes app of my laptop. Things like the progress of each song. If there are specific areas of focus for individual band members that I notice, like, a guitar player's timing, not so good in the verse, that's something I'll take note of. If there are areas for the entire band that are not coming together, I'll take note of those. Man, it's a really rough transition going from, say, the end of the bridge into the chorus after the bridge. That needs focus, that needs attention. I'm putting all of these things in notes, and what this is going to do is this is going to create my agenda for the next rehearsal. Going back again to that first point about the agenda. But then also I'm going to take those notes and I'm going to send them to all of the private instructors that work with each of those individual band members. So that then frames what they need to work on in their private lessons. I will share, and I'm going to get to this in kind of my last point, I will share all of these things with the band members, but the chances that they're going to remember them, the chances that they're going to bring those up to their private instructors as things that they need to work on, they might forget. Pretty good chance, right? So we have clear lines of communication between band coaches and private instructors. So I'm sharing all of those notes because then students will come back to rehearsal prepared and ready to play. So we don't teach those songs, but we're just fine-tuning everything. So last thing we do, every rehearsal, I mentioned this as part of our rehearsal rules, we're cleaning up the room. Now at my studio, ultimately band coaches are responsible for making sure that the room is cleaned up and in good shape for the next person to use it. But I also say teach the students how to properly care for this equipment, how to clean up the room, clean up things after themselves. We're talking wrapping guitar cables, microphone cables, putting away mics, putting away stands. If the guitar players are using pedal boards, if the drummer is using a double bass pedal, all that stuff needs to be put away. Train your students to do this. It's part of the expectation in my studio. While they're doing that, I will recap my notes again. And I'll share the areas of focus. Again, we're setting expectations for what we're going to do next week, what they're going to do in their private lessons. All, again, framing what band members need to work on so that they come back prepared. And finally, I'm explaining what our agenda is going to be in that next rehearsal. So I set those expectations early on in a rehearsal about what we're going to do with the agenda and the rehearsal rules. And then I reinforce it again at the end of every rehearsal during that cleanup section. So they show up prepared and they know what to do. All right. So that's going to wrap it up here for this special edition Building a Band program and what a band class or band rehearsal actually looks like. Future episode, I think it's going to be the next one, is we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about how to manage the students in band rehearsals. Because as much as I think it's important to set those expectations, and that helps smooth things out, sometimes we run into some issues and some behavior stuff. So we'll cover that next time on Building a Band program. All right, we'll see you next time. Wait, don't turn off the episode yet. I'm planning to offer a free live webinar to accompany this series in July, where I'll share more details on band programs and how to scale them, and give you the chance to ask questions live. But I've never done this before, so I just need to know that you're interested. So send me an email at info@rockschoolproprietor.com with the subject line webinar, and I'll be in touch with details. If you have topic suggestions or questions, please contact us at info@rockschoolproprietor.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear suggestions for future shows. We've put together some free resources for teachers and studio owners over at rockschoolproprietor.com and a private Facebook group called The Modern Music School. Please join us over there. On social, I'm at rock.school.proprietor on Instagram and John Kazicki on both LinkedIn and Blue Sky. Your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify are always appreciated. And if you enjoyed the show and gain insight from our conversation, then we count that as a win. All we ask in return is that you pay it forward and please share the show with someone you think needs to hear it.